Kill it. That bird is worthless now. It can't even fly. A group of rich boys threw stones at a wounded eagle and left it to die in the forest. But a poor orphan boy found it, nursed it back to health, and set it free. 7 years later, those same boys tried to kill him. What happened next left the entire village speechless. The eagle remembered, and it came back. This is the story of a wounded eagle that returned years later to save the life of the poor boy who once healed him. A story that proves kindness is never forgotten, not even by the creatures of the sky. In a small village nestled between tall mountains and dense forests, there lived a young orphan boy named Samuel. He was only 10 years old, but life had already taught him more about pain and survival than most adults ever learn. His parents had died when he was just 5, taken by a fever that swept through the village one cold winter. Since then, Samuel had lived alone in a tiny shack at the edge of the forest, surviving on whatever he could find and the occasional kindness of strangers. Samuel's home was nothing more than 4 wooden walls and a leaky roof. Wind-rind water dripped through the cracks, and when the wind blew, the whole structure trembled like it might collapse at any moment. He had no bed, just a pile of old blankets on the dirt floor. He had no family, no money, no future that anyone could see. But what Samuel did have was a heart full of kindness and a soul that refused to turn bitter despite everything life had thrown at him. Every morning, Samuel would wake before sunrise and walk into the forest to gather firewood. He'd bundle it up and carry it on his small shoulders to the village market, where he'd sell it for a few coins. Those coins bought him bread, sometimes a little cheese, and on good days, a small piece of meat. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep him alive. And Samuel had learned to be grateful for even the smallest blessings. The villagers looked at Samuel with mixed feelings. Some pitied him and would slip him extra food when no one was watching. Others ignored him completely, treating him like he was invisible. But there was one group that treated him worse than anyone else. The sons of the village chief. 3 boys named Marcus, Felix, and Bruno. They were rich, spoiled, and cruel. Their father owned most of the land in the village, and they believed that made them better than everyone else. Marcus was the oldest and the meanest. He had cold eyes and a sharp tongue that could cut deeper than any knife. Felix was the follower, always laughing at whatever Marcus said, always eager to please. And Bruno was the youngest, not as cruel as his brothers, but too weak to stand against them. Together, they made Samuel's life a living nightmare. Every time they saw Samuel in the village, they'd find a way to torment him. They'd knock the firewood out of his hands and scatter it across the ground. They'd trip him when he walked past and laugh as he fell face first into the mud. They'd call him names like beggar boy and forest rat and worthless orphan, and Samuel would just pick himself up, gather his things, and walk away in silence. He never fought back. He never said a word. He just endured. One autumn afternoon, Samuel was walking through the forest gathering wood when he heard a strange sound. It was a cry, weak and pained, coming from somewhere deeper in the trees. Most people would have ignored it, but Samuel wasn't most people. His heart wouldn't let him walk away from anything in pain, so he followed the sound, pushing through thick bushes and climbing over fallen logs until he found the source. There, lying on the forest floor, was the most magnificent creature Samuel had ever seen. A golden eagle with feathers that shimmered like bronze in the fading sunlight. But something was terribly wrong. The eagle's wing was twisted at an unnatural angle, clearly broken. Blood stained its feathers, and its breathing was shallow and labored. Around it, scattered on the ground, were stones. Someone had done this. Someone had hurt this beautiful bird on purpose. Samuel knelt beside the eagle slowly, careful not to frighten it. "Easy there," he whispered softly. "I'm not gonna hurt you." The eagle looked at him with sharp, golden eyes. Eyes that held pain, but also something else. Intelligence. Awareness. It was like the bird was studying him, trying to decide if he could be trusted. Samuel knew he should probably leave the eagle alone. It was a wild creature, after all, and a predator at that. Its beak could tear flesh, and its talons could rip through skin like paper. But when he looked into those golden eyes, he saw something that mirrored his own soul. Loneliness. Pain. A desperate will to survive. "I'm gonna help you," Samuel said firmly. "I don't know how, but I'm gonna try." Carefully, more carefully than he'd ever done anything in his life, Samuel removed his worn shirt and wrapped it around the eagle's body to keep it calm. The bird struggled at first, letting out weak cries of protest, but eventually it stopped fighting. It was too weak to resist. Samuel lifted the bundle gently and began the long walk back to his shack. That night, Samuel didn't sleep. He stayed awake tending to the eagle, cleaning its wounds with water from the stream, trying to figure out how to set its broken wing. He had no medicine, no bandages, no knowledge of how to heal a bird, but he had determination and a heart full of compassion. He used sticks to create a splint and strips of cloth from his only blanket to hold it in place. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. Days turned into weeks. Samuel spent every moment he wasn't gathering firewood taking care of the eagle. He caught fish from the stream and fed them to the bird piece by piece. He talked to it constantly, telling it about his life, his parents, his dreams of someday having a real home. The eagle couldn't understand his words, of course, but it seemed to listen anyway, tilting its head and watching him with those intelligent golden eyes. Word spread through the village that the orphan boy had taken in a wounded eagle. Most people thought he was crazy. "That bird will never fly again," they said. "You're wasting your time." But the cruelest reaction came from Marcus and his brothers. They were the ones who had wounded the eagle in the first place. They'd found it perched on a low branch and decided to use it for target practice with their stones. When they hit its wing and it fell to the ground, they'd laughed and walked away, leaving it to die. When Marcus heard that Samuel had saved the eagle, he was furious. That bird was supposed to die, he snarled. How dare that beggar boy interfere? He gathered his brothers and marched to Samuel's shack one evening, determined to finish what they'd started. Samuel was inside feeding the eagle when he heard the shouts outside. "Come out, orphan. Bring us that bird. We're gonna kill it right in front of you." Samuel's heart pounded, but he didn't move. He placed his body between the eagle and the door, ready to protect it with his life if necessary. The door burst open and Marcus stormed in, followed by Felix and Bruno. "Hand it over," Marcus demanded. "That's our kill." Samuel stood his ground, trembling but defiant. "No," he said quietly. "I won't let you hurt him." Marcus laughed cruelly. "You won't let me? You're nothing. You're nobody. Who's gonna stop me? You." He shoved Samuel aside and reached for the eagle. But something unexpected happened. The eagle, weak as it was, spread its one good wing and let out a piercing screech that echoed through the shack. Its golden eyes blazed with fury, and its talons slashed through the air, missing Marcus's face by inches. Marcus stumbled backward, his bravado suddenly gone. "Let's get out of here," Felix whimpered. "That thing's crazy." The three brothers retreated, but Marcus turned at the door and pointed a finger at Samuel. "This isn't over, orphan. One day, when you least expect it, I'll make you pay for this. And I'll kill that bird too." Then they were gone. Samuel collapsed beside the eagle, his whole body shaking. But when he looked at the bird, he saw something that made his heart swell. The eagle was looking at him with what could only be described as gratitude. They had protected each other. They were bonded now, in a way that went beyond words. Months passed. The eagle's wing healed slowly but surely. Samuel could see it getting stronger every day, flexing its wings, testing its strength. And then one morning it happened. The eagle stood at the doorway of the shack, looked back at Samuel one last time, and took flight. It soared into the sky, higher and higher, until it was nothing but a speck against the clouds. Samuel watched with tears in his eyes. Part of him was heartbroken to see his friend go, but another part, a bigger part, was filled with joy. He had done Italiano. He had saved a life, and as the eagle disappeared into the distance, Samuel whispered, "Goodbye, friend. Be free. Remember me." 7 years passed. Samuel was no longer a boy. He was 17 now, taller and stronger, still poor, but no longer helpless. He had built a reputation as the hardest working young man in the village. He still sold firewood, but he also helped farmers with their harvests, repaired roofs, did whatever honest work he could find. People respected him now. Most people anyway. Marcus and his brothers had grown too, but unlike Samuel, they hadn't grown wiser or kinder. If anything, they'd become worse. Marcus was now a young man of 20, and he had inherited his father's cruelty along with his land. He still remembered that night in the shack, and his hatred for Samuel had only deepened over the years. One winter day, Samuel ventured deep into the mountains to find a special type of wood that burned longer and hotter than regular firewood. The villagers paid extra for it, and Samuel needed the money. The journey was dangerous, especially in winter, but Samuel knew the forest like the back of his hand, or so he thought. What he didn't know was that Marcus had followed him, along with Felix and Bruno. He had been waiting for an opportunity like this for years. An opportunity to get Samuel alone, far from the village, where no one could hear him scream. Samuel was climbing a steep rocky path when he heard footsteps behind him. He turned and saw the three brothers blocking his way, their faces twisted with cruel smiles. "Remember when I said I'd make you pay?" Marcus called out. "Today's the day, orphan." There was nowhere to run. The path ahead was too steep to climb quickly, and behind him were three men who wanted him dead. Marcus pulled out a knife that glinted in the pale winter sunlight. "Nobody will find your body up here," he said. "The wolves will take care of what's left." Samuel's heart raced, but he didn't beg. He didn't plead. He just stood tall and met Marcus's eyes with quiet defiance. "You can kill me," he sighed calmly, "but it won't change what you are. You'll still be a coward who hurts people weaker than him." Marcus's face contorted with rage. He lunged forward, knife raised, ready to strike. But before the blade could touch Samuel, something incredible happened. A shadow passed over them, blocking out the sun for just a moment, and then a piercing screech split the air, a sound that seemed to shake the very mountains. Marcus looked up just in time to see a massive golden eagle diving toward him at impossible speed. Its talons, sharp as daggers, slammed into his arm with devastating force. The knife flew from his grip and clattered against the rocks. Marcus screamed in pain and terror as the eagle attacked relentlessly, slashing at his face, his arms, driving him back. Felix and Bruno tried to help their brother, but the eagle turned on them too, a furious whirlwind of feathers and talons. It was like nothing they had ever seen, a force of nature unleashed. Within seconds, all three brothers were running down the mountain, bleeding and screaming, their cruelty no match for the eagle's fury. When they were gone, the eagle landed on a rock beside Samuel. It folded its wings and looked at him with those same golden eyes he remembered from 7 years ago. Samuel's breath caught in his throat. "It can't be," he whispered. "Is that really you?" The eagle let out a soft cry, almost gently, and stepped closer. Samuel reached out his hand, trembling, and the eagle lowered its head to meet his touch. Tears streamed down Samuel's face as he stroked the bronze feathers. "You came back," he said, his voice breaking. "After all these years, you come back." They stayed like that for a long time, boy and eagle, reunited on that cold mountain path. Samuel didn't know how the eagle had found him. He didn't know how it had known he was in danger. But somehow, in some way that defied all explanation, the bond they had formed 7 years ago had never been broken. Samuel returned to the village with the eagle flying high above him. The villagers watched in amazement as the magnificent bird circled overhead, as if guarding the young man below. Word spread quickly about what had happened on the mountain. Marcus and his brothers, bruised and humiliated, refused to leave their home for weeks. And when they finally did, they never looked at Samuel again. Not with cruelty, not with anything. They had learned their lesson. As for Marcus, his arm never healed properly. The scars from the eagle's talons remained forever, a constant reminder of the price of cruelty. His father, ashamed of his son's cowardice, stripped them of their inheritance and gave a portion of his land to Samuel instead, as an apology for years of torment. It wasn't justice in the traditional sense, but it was a new beginning. Samuel built a proper home on that land, not a mansion, but a real house with solid walls and a roof that didn't leak. And in the tallest tree beside it, the eagle made its nest. It never flew away again. Every morning, Samuel would wake to see it perched outside his window, watching over him like a guardian spirit. And every night, before he slept, Samuel would whisper the same words. "Thank you, old friend. Thank you for coming back." Years later, when Samuel was an old man with grandchildren of his own, he would tell them this story. He'd tell them about the wounded eagle he found in the forest, about the boys who tried to destroy them both, and about the miracle that saved his life on that cold mountain path. And he'd always end with the same lesson. Kindness is never wasted, he would say. Not a single act of compassion is ever forgotten. The world remembers. The creatures remember. And sometimes, when you need it most, that kindness comes back to you in ways you never could have imagined. So be kind, my children. Be kind to the broken, the weak, the forgotten, because you never know who might return one day to save your life. And high above the village, soaring against the endless blue sky, the golden eagle would cry out, as if agreeing with every word. Friends, if this story touched your heart, drop a comment telling me what lesson it taught you. Let me know what country you're watching from. Hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you don't miss more stories like this one. There's more waiting for you, right on your screen. Thank you for staying with me until the end.